What's up guys? In this video, I'm just gonna record a video where I'm just trying to produce a house track from the ground up. It's gonna be unscripted, it's gonna be unedited, and I'm gonna show you all my tips and tricks. This is the track that we're gonna create in the video. Ready? Let's jump straight into FL Studio. Okay, so let's just start out by creating this house track. So I like to start by just finding some chords that I can work with. And usually I just go on Google and type common chords for house music or something else, just find some inspiration. Or then I use something like Scalar, which is just a plugin with a lot of chords in it, where you can just find the different modes and different scales and find predefined chords, basically. I think I have shown this in some of my tutorials a lot because it just helps me so much because I'm not like a music theorist genius. So I have found these like chords here, down here. So what I have done is that I have used some inversions to just change some of the notes in the chord. So either switch them up an octave or down an octave. And I think this is just fine to use right now. So what I will do next is that I will try to find like a starting sound. And I have already cheated a little bit and loaded up analog labs. And then I think just to get something going, maybe we should just try to find an electric piano. Maybe just this clean Mark 1. Yes, let's just start with this. We can always change it later. And then I can just drag in the MIDI into the channel. And then I know like I want to have a little bit like longer chords. So let's just start with this and listen to the sound. And this one I might even switch it. No. Maybe this one can be switched. Okay, I think this is actually what the chord progression that I want. And I think I want to do something like this. So maybe have it to do, let me just enable the metronome. Then I want to have maybe like okay, so I want to copy this chord here to duplicate it over here, because then I want to use this chord as like an extra change in this like second part of the chord progression, just so this just doesn't loop exactly as the same. We could actually also just to keep like something that's similar, so just drag this over so we mimic the same like rhythm in the chord progression over here. We have something like this. We do the same thing over here. Okay, I think this is like really cool. It's like mellow, and yeah, I'm just like a mellow guy. And what we can do more here for the chords, just to spice them up a little bit, is that we can go and do a little bit of strumming. So on your keyboard, you can just hit Alt and S in FL Studio, and you get this strumminizer. You can also go up to the wrench up here and access the menu. And then we just want to have just a little bit of strumming here. So you hear like they're not like hitting exactly on the grid. They're more like just being faded in almost in a way. So I like that. And then I'm gonna hit Alt and R for the randomizer. I just disabled this pattern generator because I want to randomize the levels. Not the panning, but just the velocity, like the level. So we get a little bit of dynamic changes in the volume of each chord hit. I think this is fine for now. I think we should just move on and try to build some more melodic elements, because I like to start with all of my like melodic components and then I move on to the drums and the bass usually. I'm just gonna assign this to mix track. And don't forget like just to comment down below in the comment field if you have any questions or just want to say hi. I always check my comments and would love to like engage with you more. So yeah, definitely just put your comments down below. Okay, so I just added the e-piano to my channel in FL Studio. Right now, I'm not gonna do anything crazy. I'll just start to pick my sounds and then I can do some processing. Okay. So I went to the Korg M1 plugin and then I found like a weird, kind of funky synth sound. And I thought it sounded cool, so I'm gonna try to maybe just play on my MIDI keyboard and just try to jam out some ideas. So I'm just gonna try to jam a little bit with the metronome and then I'm gonna record the MIDI. So yeah. Okay, I think I have something. Okay, so that's the thing, I'm not really great at playing, so sometimes I nail it, and this first one was okay, so I'm just gonna delete the other ones over here. Gonna highlight it and press Alt and Q to get up the quantizer. And I'm using some quantization presets for the MPC swing. You can go to Google, just type MPC swing presets, and you can find some sites where you can download them and just install them into FL Studio. And it just gives a little bit more like swinginess, pulling these like off the grid a little bit. And also one thing is that I'm just gonna keep the velocity almost like at the same level. Okay. And then I need to add a little bit of extra volume to this. And then we can basically just copy this across. I hit Control B to just highlight this up here, and then you can just duplicate it. It's a little bit easier. And then it could be cool to maybe try to follow like the chords a little bit. So maybe try to go up here. So I'm just trying out stuff. I don't even know if this is gonna sound cool, but I'm just like, I really encourage you just to try out this approach as well. Just try to press some notes, do some stuff, because eventually you'll hit something that sounds great. And yeah, that's what we're all for, basically. And then we can just keep these in like the... Then we can also try to maybe change this one a little bit. Maybe go like this downward way. I don't know if this is gonna work. Yes, it does. Okay, cool. Then we have like this kind of like rhythmic melody thing. So I'm just gonna make sure everything was quantized. It was, and I'm just gonna, oh shit. I'm just gonna name it because, let's face it, I'm a little bit like organized in my sessions because it's just easy for me to work with. So Melodies, synth, give it a color, and we can just go here and put it to a track. So one thing I know is that I want to make this sound a little bit more dirty. So I can go and grab my decapitator distortion unit and just put up a little bit of drive. And I like this end style. I don't know what it stands for. I think it maybe stands for Neve, like the Neve mixing console, but I'm not sure. But I just love to use this. And then I'm doing like a little bit more of a darker tone. And then we can... There is like a cool delay already in the Korg M1. So maybe we should just try to emphasize that a little bit more. Okay, so that's pretty cool because it's not synced, but I basically want to add like another delay, the H delay, which will be synced. Let's see. Okay, so I love to spend time with these filters in my delays. If you have like a delay with a filter built in, try to play around with like removing a little bit of the low end and also removing some of the high end, because you can like really place your delays in the frequency range and in the stereo field. And I love to have like these more like low cutted delays to play around in the background and also like in the left and right. And yeah, of course, I love ping pong. Yeah, it's just amazing effect. And this is pretty cool. And we could actually try to do a little bit more. So let me just think what plugin. Okay, I'm gonna be a little bit gentle to my CPU because I'm also recording and it's gonna struggle a little bit if I use like crazy plugins that are really CPU heavy. So basically what I want to do now is that I want to like add a low pass filter, which is going to be modulated by the peak controller in FL Studio. I'm going to use the LFO, and I want to just make the cutoff change a little bit because that's going to be fed into the delay. So every time like this is being changed, the delays are going to sound a little bit different, and also like the synth as well. So it just introduces some randomization and some dynamic changes over time. And I really love to introduce that in my music. So what we do is that we set this LFO up here, and then we right click on, because we are using like a FL Studio plugin, we can just right click and link to controller instead of having to click up here. And then we can press the internal controller, and I just select the peak controller LFO. So you can see already it's moving. And then you can basically try to play around with the bass knob. That's where like the starting point of the LFO. And we're using like a sine wave pattern. And then we can choose like how much it's gonna like do changes. And I think, let's just play the sound. So it's just changing a little bit. I think this is like the sweet spot. So you can basically hear that the filter is opening and closing a little bit, and it just adds this really, really cool vibe to it. Okay, so I think like this is enough for this sound. I'm gonna move on because this video is also gonna be long, but I wanna keep it like unscripted, and I don't want to I want to show everything that I do. So the Spitfire Audio Labs plugin is crazy because like one thing is that it's for free and it has like a huge library of really quality sounds. I haven't like downloaded all of them, but I have downloaded a few, and they have like so many really cool and crazy sounds that can really like introduce something cool. Okay, so I'm gonna try this guitar here, muted plugs, and let me just see. Turn it up a little bit. Okay, we're just gonna try something. So I want these like I don't know what these are called, kind of riffs. Just gonna put this to like quantize them, and this is because it's like it should be really low. Okay, that works a little bit better here. And then I don't want this to happen like too many times, so just gonna... And this could be cool to just try to mimic like the chords down here. So I'm just gonna use the guidelines from the chords down here. Just put it up again. So basically these are following the chords, and we can just do the Control B thing and just copy everything over. And yeah, I'm gonna go into labs and just try to make this a little bit louder. Yes. Okay, I think that's fine. Like it sounds a little bit like static, like plastic, but it's kind of cool because I'm gonna add this like a lot of effects to it. So let's just put this to FL Studio's mixer channel, and I'm gonna put up the Guitar X6 plugin because this can just add like tons of a lot of creative effects to it. So the first thing I'm gonna add is like the cyc delay. And maybe put this to maybe 1.5. Like it's 2. then another delay. So basically what I want to do with this guitar sound is that it's not going to be like too transient, too present in the mix. It's just going to be something that can add a little bit of interest in the stereo field. So I think I'm also going to like add this like pro filter just before it. Something like that. And then we can actually also has like a byte component that can like do some bit reduction. Something like that. And we can add a little bit of saturation. Nice. Okay, and then I want to add like the last thing is like a ladder filter from kilohertz, just to cut it off a little bit. Something around here. Because I don't want the guitar to occupy those higher frequencies, because I want to make room for drums and for other elements, basically. So we're just going to reduce the volume on the mixer channel a little bit, just to tuck it in the back. Okay. So I think we can try to look for some kind of chord steps. And basically what I want to do is I just want to explore my sounds. I don't have like any... Sometimes I have like some folders that I go to, but today I just want to try out different stuff, basically. So just having fun in studio. So I love to go into Omnisphere and just go and actually let's just do like the all plugin, just hit the shuffle button and just try to find some sounds that could be interesting. I'm just gonna play the idea that we have already. Then I'm just gonna try to play on top with my MIDI keyboard. I feel like this sound actually fits the vibe in kind of a way, but I'm not entirely sure. Just need to check this harmonic thing out here. That's because it's doing something that I don't want. Let's just try again. Yes. This sounds really, really cool. So I'm just gonna put on the metronome, and I think I'm just gonna record it now and just see if I can like nail it. Wish me luck. Okay, I don't know if this works, but I tried some riffs. I don't know if I nailed it. Oh shit. So let me just try to quantize this. Okay, so what I want to do now is like I want to do the same thing as I did with the other sounds, like following the chords. So I just want to make sure that's why I also like to do everything. This is like a side note, everything in one pattern when I'm doing all of my melodic components. Is that in FL Studio, you can see like these grayed out MIDI notes are like from the other instruments that you're using. So this is really handy for me because then I can see like, okay, here are my chords, here are some other melody stuff. So I can actually try to also make everything follow the chords, but also not layer stuff on top of other melodic components too much. Because if I were to add so much stuff right here, it's gonna sound busy. So I could instead like add something here instead, or maybe here. So that's why I really love to do all of my melodic elements in one pattern. So, okay, let's move on with this. And let me see, I think I need to do something like that. And also this, maybe this here or here. Okay, this one is maybe a little bit too low in the mix, so let me just see if I can find some other. We're just gonna do this one here and put it down one octave. Okay, so one cool trick that we can do here, because for me it sounds a little bit like too repetitive. So this last chord steps here, I actually want to do some changes. So maybe we can just take the bottom of the notes and just put it up one octave. We could do that. I'm gonna do that because I want to move on, because this video is gonna be too long. So let's just name this like Vox chord steps. So, and let's add this to the mixer track. I think actually this sounds pretty cool as is. Maybe I won't go back and tweak it. So I think right now we need to find a kick drum and maybe some claps, and then I can start build a bass line for this track, because I think like in terms of melodic components, I'm really close at finding all the stuff that I need for like a drop, like a high energy section. Then I might find some other stuff for breakdown purposes. But basically, I don't want to add too much stuff so the song can sound a little bit too busy. So let's just try to find some kick drums. And I think I'm gonna go just to splice and just find some drums, and I can just drag in the viewer so you can see what I'm doing. And just go into one shots, and I'm just gonna browse. Maybe I need to also put the kick drum filter. I think this one is actually cool. I'm gonna use this. So I'm gonna put this into my mixer pattern. Sorry, just gonna do. So I haven't even talked about like the BPM range, but I want to have like a fast-paced, like mellow house track, and I want to have like a 4 to the floor kind of beat, but maybe with some slight variations. So I like to have like these kind of like skippy notes down here, and I'm just gonna lower the velocity, and I'm also gonna put this like off the grid a little bit to get like a little bit more like swingy feel, something like that. We could also like this, like that's the note that's on the half beat is not so loud. So this is basically my kick drum pattern, and just copy that across. Let's call that kick drum. And we're gonna route that to a mixer track. And then one thing I want to make sure is that if you right click this one, you're gonna check the box called cut itself. And basically what this means is that if I have like a kick drum playing and you have the wavelength, and if you're having like really short pockets in the like pattern, like I, for example, have right here, if I haven't ticked the cut off function, the waveform of the kick drum will just continue into the other kick drum hit, and that can lead to maybe some phasing issues, some distortion issues, or even like some loud transient peaks. So if you enable the cut itself, this waveform of this hit right here, let me just zoom in, right here, it's gonna be cut off when this one hits. And it's just to make stuff sound a little bit more tight, and you avoid these like issues. Okay, so while we added with the kick drum, I can like just set up my sidechaining. So I like to use buses because then I can sum some like elements into groups and then add some processing on it to sound more joined together. So I like to use an instrument bus, a drum bus, a low-end bus for my kick drum and bassline, and then a vocal bus and maybe like an SFX bus. So for the instrument bus, we're just gonna route like all what we have right here. So we can just do this, and then for the sidechaining, I have before used my like entire kick drum waveform to trigger a fruity limiter, but I encountered some problems that if I use like these really chunky waveforms, it's gonna duck too much of the signal down of like the bassline. So I saw a video on YouTube, I can't remember which one. I think it was Disclosure using like the Logic compressor to do sidechaining. And basically what they did is that they used, let me just find it, just a really short sample. So that could be like a click, or it could be, as I'm gonna use, like a rim shot, something like that. So I'm gonna drag that into my channel, and then I'm gonna call this like sidechain trigger, like this. And then I'm gonna copy the notes from my kick drum pattern, because that's like where the sidechain trigger is. Then I'm gonna route this to a mixer track. And then one thing that's really, really crucial is we don't want to route this sidechain trigger to the master output, because we don't want it to generate sounds. We want it to send a signal to the fruity limiter. So we're gonna turn this off. So what you can see now is that it's not playing sound. So that's what we want. So what we can do now is that we can take the sidechain trigger, and then we can just send it to the different channels that we want to sidechain this sidechain trigger to. So I want to sidechain this to actually maybe like all of them with some different settings. So we can go to the ePiano first. The reason why I'm doing this right now is just it's actually just for organization purposes, and also to figure out if everything is working together. So if I were to do like the sidechaining last, when I've picked all of my sounds, there might be some issues with some stuff that's just sounding off. So I'd rather have like what it's gonna sound like at the beginning, and then I can pick and choose what I want to put into the project. I think that's a little bit like, that's just my approach. You can do it like however you want. So we're gonna do like select the fruity limiter, put it to compressor mode, and on the sidechain, we're gonna select the sidechain trigger input. We'll turn down sustain and attack, and then the ratio all the way up, and then threshold is gonna be until we get the desired pumping effect. the small like purple area is where the audio is being ducked down. And now you can use the release button to actually basically to tell the compressor when it should pull up the volume again. So you can see like this is the shape. Like this is also what you see in plugins like the volume shaper of Cable Guys or the Nicky Romero sidechaining plugin is like basically the shape that you're drawing to remove like the volume from your bassline or your other elements. So that's pretty handy that we can use the release button now. We can also make short. And this is really great if we have let's say we have a really transient sound and we want the transient of the kick drum to cut through that sound. We can just use like just a tiny, like a short amount of volume ducking and then keeping like the body of that transient sound, but still being able to push the transient of the kick drum through the mix. So I think this is more like flexible to be able to determine like how long this like duck should be. And for like the e-piano sound, I basically just want to make the transient of the kick drum cut through. So I don't want this to be too long. Okay. And then because we could just put in the Fruity Limiter plugin and redo all of these like steps for all of the other like channels, but it would take too long. So I actually found out a really cool way to drag a plugin from one channel into another and keeping the settings. So if you go down here to the downwards arrow and you have like this save preset as, if you click it and hold it, you can drag it. And then I can drag it to my melodic synth, and there you have it. It saves all of like the settings. So I want a little bit more of a heavier like ducking effect on these like rhythmic like melodic synth here, this melody thing, because it's gonna like, this should be like a pumping kind of effect together with the drums and stuff. So it's just the threshold is gonna be lowered a little bit more. Then we can take like rinse and repeat, drag this to the guitar. And why this is pretty cool to use the limiter for the sidechaining is that when the kick drum and the sidechain trigger is not playing, you will not have applied like ducking effects. So in a breakdown, the pianos are gonna play like they are not applied sidechain to them. If you were to use like a plugin like Volume Shaper or like the Nicky Romero one, if you haven't like ticked on that it should only be triggered when like a certain input trigger is being fed into the plugin, the sidechain trigger will also be on your sound during a breakdown, for instance. And that you can hear that on some tracks that it's like pumping in the breakdown as well as it's also doing a drop. But by doing this approach, you actually avoid that and you have like a more like clean sound that's not so affected in a breakdown, basically. So that's just one benefit of this. Huge benefit. Okay, so let me just see the... Sidechain is enabled. Okay, so I'm gonna try to find like a bass sound right now because we want to move on this tutorial. I know like the video is gonna be long, but again, as I mentioned in the beginning, I don't want to keep any secrets. I want to show all of my tricks and tips and like all my thoughts that are being put into when I create music. And it's really hard if I'm were to do like a 10-15 minute video where everything is just really heavy edited. So I hope that's okay. So for the bass line, I think I'm gonna go to one of my go-to preset packs. I'm using the silent one, like the old classic plugin, and it just sounds great. Just love it. And I think this is just gonna be really like low cutted like sound. So I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm just gonna try to jam something on my MIDI keyboard and see if it fits the vibe. And then I'm gonna go and readjust some stuff in the piano roll. So just I think I have it. Okay. So like one really cool approach that I have been using lately for my bass lines is, as what you heard me doing on the MIDI keyboard, is that I'm actually more focused on trying to play in the rhythm of the bass line instead of trying to follow the chord progression and doing some like melodic stuff in the bass line. I'm more like concerned about getting the right groove, and then I can go back into the piano roll and do the tweakings. So I think I found like a really, really cool riff. So I'm gonna highlight everything and press Alt and Q. And then for the bass line, here I don't want to have so much dynamic changes in the volume. So all of my like velocities are gonna be the same basically. And then I'm gonna save, I'm gonna only use this part here. So if we have like this, we can follow the root notes of the sound. And now because we did some inversions and I can't remember like what's the actual root note, I'm gonna go to my helper, the scaler plugin. So I know like this is like the A sharp, and let me just make sure that it's A sharp. Yes. And then like the next one. So this is why like I basically need to do more music theory practice, because I'm really not good at this. I need too much help. This is like, is this that F sharp? Yes, okay. So then I need to move this down to F sharp. Yeah. And then we can just copy these notes across, and then I'm not quite sure. I think it's a D sharp. So one thing we could do here is that we can try to play around in these notes that are in the chord. So instead of just having the D sharp to play this entire path here, we can actually try to push up the notes. So I can play in D sharp, I can play in F sharp, in A sharp, and C sharp. So we can try to this just sounds really, really nice and bouncy in my opinion. And this is also, if you're doing like this kind of like genre, what you could call it, I find it really, really nice sounding to follow the chords with your bass line, the root note of your bass line, but also trying to just try to experiment a little bit. But this is like really a safe way of getting something that sounds nice, and everything just sounds a little more glued together, in my opinion. So let's just copy this across. So here it might need to change something, because we don't have the F sharp now. It's like an F, And we can still play in C sharp, and we need to change this to, let me just see, maybe G sharp. Vibes. Okay, so I think like this bass line is sounding pretty cool. I'm gonna route this to a mix track. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna set up is the sidechain trigger, because this one is obviously clashing with the bass line. I'm just gonna draw this in. Then we have like the, and for this one, like with the sidechain trigger, we're gonna do like a lot of threshold. Really, really cool. So for the bass line, I'm gonna add an EQ, because I wanna make sure two things: that it's not occupying like really high frequencies, because I wanna make room for other elements. And then I'm also gonna just remove the really, really super lows, because that's not, it's basically not necessary. That was the wrong. Then one cool thing in Neutron 3 is that we can add a transient shaper and add a little bit of attack. You can use whatever, like if you have another transient shaper, just use that. But I just want to add a little bit of extra punch to those like transient bass hits, basically. Really nice. And then I like to add some excitement. Like this plugin, I'm not sponsored by Isotope, but like the Neutron 3 is just amazing. Like I just love to have all of these different components in one plugin, like one channel strip, and then I can just add everything that I need. Like I use this plugin, I think, in all my sessions. So I'm gonna add a little bit of tape saturation. I'm gonna split up the band, because I don't want to add this like saturation to the really lows of the bass line. This is more like to the low mids and the mid range. And use the tape. You can hear like that we're pushing through some more upper harmonics. Really, really solid bass. Then we can enable the limiter. I'm gonna set like a ceiling at around -3, then push up the gain. That's just because I want this bass to be a little bit more squashed together, so there is not too much dynamic changes in the sound. And then I also want to make sure that it's not like too loud compared to the kick drum. And then one thing I want to add is like a little bit of release to the amplitude in silent. now we have like a really, really solid foundation right now. So I think we should just try to jump into adding some really cool drums. So I'm actually wanna try to add some stuff from one of my sample packs. It's the UK Garage drum kit, I think I called it. Let me just see. So I haven't added this to like my folders in FL Studio, so I just need to have it on like a just want that like standard like house clap. Cool. If you're interested in getting this drum kit, you can just check out the description down below. I've put a link for the drum kit if you're interested. You're also going to support the channel, of course. So let's just try to build like a standard clap. And then I love to add these like swingy, skippy clap hits. So putting something like here. Like just this one hit down here, it just gives like that extra bounce to the claps. Just amazing, like how much it can do. Then we're just gonna copy this across. And then we can actually, oh, that sounded great. Maybe try to do something like putting stuff down here in. Like I'm up for those happy accident. I didn't plan doing this. It was just a mistake, but mistakes can sound pretty cool. Yes. That's what we need. I'm gonna copy this across. And of course, we need to do the organization because it's gonna be much easier when we're gonna do some arrangement. And yeah, I can also just do my drum bus routing right now. So I'm gonna route this to the drum bus. I think we need to find like a closed hi-hat. Sounds pretty cool. I think this one actually, it has like this like lo-fi kind of vibe to it. And then in this drum kit, I'm gonna stop promoting it now, but I just added some MIDI, like MIDI patterns. And I added a lot of like MIDI hat patterns. What? I can't sit still. If something is squeaking, that's probably my chair. I need to get a new one, but yeah, this just has vibes in it. Okay, so jumping into these like closed hi-hats, which are put on the offbeat. I've already like added some in the MIDI patterns, some different changes to the velocity, and I believe also not to the panning. So we're gonna do that. So we're gonna press Alt and R to get up the randomizer. And we're just gonna use, not for the velocity, but only for the pattern. So we're just gonna generate some random like panning of these closed hi-hats. So something like this. sick. I'm just gonna call this closed hi-hat. And then put this to mixer track. Also put this to this one. And let's just see if we have something. Yeah, this like classic. I think it's the 909. Pretty cool. I think I'm just gonna try to explore some of these like MIDI drum patterns here. See if we have something that's really like shuffly. My God, this is pretty cool. The reason why I love these MIDI patterns is that if you zoom in and look at the notes, they are like not entirely on the grid. Like they're just being put off because we get this like more swingy kind of feeling to it. So this is pretty cool. I'm just gonna duplicate it. We're also gonna add like a little bit of random panning to these. Just gonna route these to the closed hi-hats. Just amazing, just amazing. And I don't want to add too much stuff because already right now we have like a really solid groove. So I think like just gonna add some rim shots. I think these are fine here. Then we're gonna highlight everything and do the randomization thing. So we get some random values again. Pretty cool. Okay, so I think I'm actually done with programming some of my drums because like this is actually sounding pretty cool. So what we can do right now is that we can actually take all of this stuff and then split them up into individual patterns. And then we can try to add a little bit of audio loops. So what we can do here that's pretty cool in FL Studio is that you can go up here into your pattern. We only have one, pattern 1. We can click this triangle up here, and then you can press split by channel. So right now, we just split this into all of these different patterns. And this is pretty cool because now we can just drag them in, have everything, and this one as well. Then I need to, like the sidechain trigger, I don't want to have like a separate. I'm just going to put this into my kick drum pattern because that's a little bit too much to just have a separate this, and we're gonna delete this one. So now we have everything. Okay, so I think I'm gonna add some texture loops, some crashes, some sweeps, effects, basically, because I see them as stuff that can tie together all of our sections. Because a lot of these effects can be used for like transitions and building up stuff. And sometimes you actually just need a few really good elements, but if you automate them well, use a lot of transitional effects, and like build them up towards something, you actually don't need that much in a song, in my opinion. It's more a matter of picking the right sounds. So let me just try to find something else. I'm just going through some of my sample packs that are not in FL Studio. So I've just, I don't want to be like promotional guy on YouTube promoting all of my digital products, but I also went to like a holiday on Mallorca, and I recorded like a lot of field recordings with a field recorder, like a lot of texture loops. And you can also go check them out. And I love to use these field recordings in my tracks because I can just add some nice, like organic texture in the background of my tracks. So these are like some of them. I think I'm gonna add this one actually. Because I'm like kind of like a sucker for these like restaurant vibes. Pretty nice actually. So I'm just gonna drag it in. So I didn't took like the first part because it was like, I think it was a bus or something in it, and sounded a little bit horrible. Then we're gonna turn down the volume. So just hear that this is just in the background. You have like this really nice noise that's kind of random. And we're gonna do a little bit of tweaking to this. So we're gonna send this to a mixer track as well. And firstly, we're gonna do some equalization. So removing low end. But then I also want to add some cool panning automation. And I like to use the shaper box for that. So going to panning, going to rhythm, and just find some of their like panning rhythms. So now it's just going. Just going like back and forth and from left to right, and it's just sounding really nice. It's just like the icing on top of the cake. Just be careful that it's not too loud in the mix. It should just be something that's just sitting underneath. And then I actually also want to add like a crackling noise from Splice. Just clear all filters and just type crackle. I think this one is pretty cool. So just putting this down here. And just gonna take this part here and turn it down a little bit here, like do some fades, turn it down, and just draw it over. So let me just mute these two texture loops, and now you can hear what they actually add. thumbs up. Then we want to add like a cymbal crash. This is the one that I use almost every time. And that's because it just sounds good. It's just a nice crash. So, okay. And then we just change the color. This. And now we can also do the, like make a mix bus for the SFX bus. And then we can just route all of these ones in here. And then we can do some controlling, like with the volume and doing some EQing on all of my SFX and texture loops. Okay, so then we can also add, I have like in Splice, I have like a sweet effects folder that I just use like all the time, because like some people will say that, oh, it sounds the same, it's the same sounds, but if they work, just use them, because it's just a quality of life to have everything sorted into one like custom sample folder that you can just access and just be quick using, like creating music. This is the thing that I added, like this downlifting noise. That's pretty awesome. Okay, so another thing that we can try to go and look for is some extra top loops for the drums. And then when I've done that, I'm actually ready to try to do some like arrangement. I'm gonna create like just a quick arrangement, because if I'm were to make like the full arrangement, it's gonna be too long, this video. So I'm just gonna tell you like what I do and show you some stuff, and then you can try to make the rest of the arrangement yourself. So we're gonna go, let me just show you what I do in Splice. So I'm gonna go to drums, view all, and then I'm gonna go to tops, maybe also house. I'm gonna put this to loops, and then I'm just gonna search. This one could maybe be cool, like because I don't have like a shaker in my like music. So let's just drag that in. Let's see if it works. I'm gonna time it so it fits the tempo of. Okay, it actually works, but we need to do a little bit of tweaking. So I'm gonna call this like shaker loop and put this to mixer track and put it into the drum bus. So I like to add a transient shaper to my when I add like top loops and stuff, because sometimes like they are like a little bit too sustained for my liking. So I'm just gonna turn down the sustain a little bit. Yes, that's one thing. And then I need to do some EQing on this shaker loop. Yeah. And then need to go to the shape box too. And then I want to add like also like panning, as I did with the texture loop. Just getting some random panning. Then I want to put this to like hertz, so it's like unsynced. Yes, and then the last thing is just adding a sidechain volume shaper, just to dock like on every like one beat, downbeat. Okay, I think this is what I'm gonna work with for now, because now I think we should try to do some arrangement stuff. So let's just copy this up here, and let's see, like, I think we can use like this as an intro. So do this. And we can use like the Palmer vibes here, and then all of the crackle noise. So what I'm gonna try to focus on right now is, instead of adding stuff and adding a lot of crazy effects, I'm basically just trying to figure out where I want to have these patterns playing. So the E-piano, it works fine to have that in like the intro build-up, introducing the melody synth. But then in the first part of the drop, I don't want to include the E-piano. I'm just gonna take it out, because then it sounds a little bit more like impactful and also a little bit dry, instead of having like the full power, because then we can add like the E-piano here for the second part of the drop. So having something like that. Actually also removing the shaker. We can do like a cut here. You know what? I think I'm actually gonna shave this for over here, and then we can just take all of this stuff here and put it over here. And then this is gonna be like a B part section where we can maybe do, let me just do something where I just cut this out here and also cut out the bass line. We can actually cut out the kick drum. And then for this part here, because this is the part where I'm trying to break down into the breakdown, basically. So build down into that. I'm gonna remove the melody synth, because this is gonna play too much. So making like a transition like this. Okay, so for this video, I'm not gonna build more arrangement, because then I will basically just repeat like here, from here. Then I will do like a build up. Then I will add like same length of the drop, maybe like add another bar, like another section here, and then doing like an outro. But it's more important for you to see like how you can go from intro build up and into the drop, and then going out again. So that's what I'm gonna focus on right now for the arrangement. So right here, I think it's really cool to just go look for some like upsweeping effects. So I have this one that I'm pretty fond of. Gonna put this into the effects. One cool thing that we can add here to add a little bit of extra like change is that I love to add ride loops. I have one right here. It's just something like that. We're just gonna time stretch it so it fits the tempo. Gonna name it ride loop, and then gonna put it into the mixer track here. And also route it to the drum bus, like this. Yes, and then for this like build down, I want to add another like simple transition. Just gonna use, I think it's this one. And then put it to the mixer track, SFX. Pretty cool. Okay, so let's try to build like this intro. So for the E-piano, I actually want to add some low pass filtering to it. Just gonna add the fruity filter on down here, create automation clip, and just gonna have it like low. Then we can introduce some claps here. And here we can introduce the closed hi-hat. And up here with the E-piano, I'm just gonna try to do stuff and talk you through what I do. I'm just gonna build down like closing the filter again. Sick, because then we're slowly fading out the E-piano and then it just hits you. I think I'm gonna add another like sweeping thing for the build-up. I have like, this is like a dub riser from Splice, and I think this is just like a cool effect. I'm gonna shape it a little bit so it has a little bit more like input. This, and maybe also do these fades. That's pretty cool. And then we can also add like a, I think I have like a long riser here also. These, again, this is also just from a like a folder I made on Splice with all of these effects, because let's face it, I'm not like, I don't get too excited doing like effects and try to find new ones. I just want to stick with what works. Nice. And then for the start of the track, I have like this, let me just see, like this effect could be cool just to have like when it starts. And then we could also, for the same thing, like with the filtering, for the drum boss with all my drums, I actually want to add like a filter, low pass cutoff as well in the beginning, just to smooth in the drums, like the claps a little bit more. Just gonna add a small sweep here. Pretty cool. Okay, so I just need to check the timestamp for this video. Okay, so I think I'm gonna try to do the last couple of things for the arrangement, and then I'm gonna talk you through some of the, like the instrument bosses, the drum bosses, like try to show you like my processing, and then I'm gonna do like just a gentle touch of mastering. Again, I'm no expert, but this is just what I do. So I just want to show you like how you can do some cool automation stuff for the build-up. So you can go, I'm just gonna add like a new track up here. And you can go to your master channel, and then you can start by just loading up the, just a volume plugin. I think I've shown this in a lot of my videos on YouTube, but it's just a really nice tip for adding a little bit of extra punch to drops. So basically what we want to do is that we just want to decrease the volume a little bit just before the drop. So I like to go with 70%, and 80 is like the normal amount. So it just fades down a little bit. And it just works really, really great. And then another thing that we can add on the master bus is we can do some high pass filtering. If you're a DJ, you know this effect, like just turning the knob, like removing all the low end and also some of the mid range. And then when the drop hits, you just turn it down to normal and it just hits. And that's the same effect that we're trying to mimic. So we just use the fruity parametric EQ and just have like a high pass here. Gonna automate the frequency cutoff. And then what we can basically do is that we can just increase this when we get to the drop. I just love this effect. That's because I'm an old DJ, so that's like my soul and my yeah, my identity. I just love to use filters. So the next one we can do is that when we're doing like this high pass cutoff, we can do a little bit more, and we can add a reverb and basically do this. Something like that. So just gonna set it up a little bit. So we're just gonna automate the wet knob. So every like other places in the track, this is just gonna be at 0 because we don't want to add like reverb on everything. But this is mainly just for like a transition effect. So using that in like the build-up is pretty cool. Just adding like a little bit of reverb can really do some wonders. Nice. And then I have like one more. Actually, we can do another creative effect. So we can add like some delay. So we just set it up as this, like the delay, and we're just gonna automate the wet knob, this one here, and then I don't know why it does this. Don't make like in the entire automation clip. Sometimes FL Studio does some weird stuff that I can't explain. It makes 0 sense. This one I'm gonna start the effect a little bit earlier. And then set it up here. This. Really cool. And like using all of these automations, you can actually create a lot of interesting stuff without using a lot of like sweeps and riser samples. You can actually do a lot with your sounds that you have in the project. So the last thing that I want to use is also a classic of mine that I have used in so many tracks and also shown in a lot of videos. It's just pulling up a stereo plugin and then automating the width knob. And then I'm just reducing it to 0 just before the drop. Well, not actually to 0 because it's going to be a little bit too much, maybe like almost to 0. And then when the drop hits, I'm just going to add it back to the normal. So right here. So I actually go down to maybe 25%, to be honest, because you're going to hear this effect a little bit. So it's going to be a little bit too obvious. So everything just gets really like mono-ish, and maybe that's not the effect that you're looking for. So just try to taste like how much narrow you want this to be. Just gives a little bit extra impact, in my opinion. Okay, so this is perhaps the last thing that I'm gonna do for like arrangement stuff. So I'm gonna go to the instrument bus, and then I'm gonna add an effect, which is a tape stop effect. I'm gonna automate the play knob because that's what's gonna activate the tape stop. I'm just gonna click this button up here because then it's gonna record like what kind of what's it called, like what knob I want to make an automation clip out of. Okay, I can hear on myself that I have recorded for a long time, so I can't even speak, right? So I hope you're with me still. So right now we're just gonna activate the tape stop effect just before the drop. So it's gonna sound like this. Perhaps we can actually start it a little bit earlier. No, it was better here. This, I think it's because I made the tape stop a little bit too long. Stop time. Okay, I thought I said it was the last one, but I'm just gonna add a little bit of extra automation because now I'm added to this melody synth down here. I want to do some modulation, and that could be to the decapitator. So basically, I'm gonna modulate the drive knob, so it's gonna push a lot of distortion into the sound. And then we can maybe also put this one, just the drive here. And then we can I think this is what I want to do right now in terms of arrangement and song structuring. So I'm going to jump into the different instrument buses because I don't want to make this video so much longer. Because in terms of arrangement, if I were to put in some pointers, I want to, like as I told before, after the drop here and the build down of the drop into the breakdown, then I'm gonna add like another build up section with basically the same like automation and stuff and introducing elements, and then I'm gonna add like another section of a drop 2, and then if the song, if it makes sense, I'm gonna add like maybe a bridge section where something new is being introduced, and then I'm gonna add like something for drop 3, and that could also be adding like an extra high synth thing or changing the melody, and then I'm gonna create like an outro. I believe I have made actually one video about this, explaining this, and I'm gonna link it maybe up here or down in the description, so I can, because that video explains it a little bit more in depth. But yeah, this is really useful for breaking out of that 8-bar loop, because I want to break out of that really quick when I'm producing, instead of just having to build everything in that 8-bar loop, because then when I've listened to this for maybe like 3 hours, I might get bored or get sick of the sound, and then might even just reject the project, don't work on it anymore, or just thinking this sucks. So instead, I try to find the core elements and then actually start breaking it out into the song structure. And then I can later add extra elements if that makes sense for the song. But right now, I don't need to add that much, in my opinion. It could maybe be just another synth just playing in some areas, but nothing really major, because I just found stuff that worked really well, and they also work really well in a song structure and in an arrangement, basically. Okay, enough talking about this. I'm gonna move into my instrument bus. So for my all my melodic components, let me just loop a section here. so you have something playing. So the first thing I want to add on my instrument bus is the Soothe 2. And this is basically just to remove any like unwanted like resonant peaks. Something like that. And that's just to make sure that I don't have these resonant peaks that are gonna go into a compressor and into other creative plugins. So the next plugin that I add is the Solid Bus Compressor. Just to glue together things, I just use this like the default settings. It just sounds really good to my ears. Then I add a plugin called Passive EQ. You can use regular EQs. It's just because this one sounds really good in my opinion. It colors the sounds really nicely. It's a little bit expensive, but use what you have. So what I like to do is that I want to cut away like all the low-end information because I have a bass. And then I want to boost like the 2K area, and also want to like do a high shelf boost at around 8K, just to make a little bit of presence. Yeah, and then I actually, for this, like this style that I'm for, is like, this track is a little bit more like lo-fi, 90s house inspired, like a little bit gritty. I love to use these like tape emulation plugins to add a little bit of like noise. This is just adding a little bit of texture, vibe, like analog, grit, warmth, like all these buzzwords. It just sounds nice, and I don't want to dive too much into like, I just put this on and I really like it, and then I use it. Nothing like fancy in that matter. And then the last one is just, oh sorry, that was the wrong plugin. The Ozone 9 Imager. And this is just to make sure that stuff is not being too wide. So I'm also checking if it sounds good in mono, and the main sounds are still there. And then I'm doing like a little bit of stereo whiting in the top, also in this like 1K area to 6,000. And then I'm reducing like this mid-range, low mid-range. And then for this like really low end, I'm just doing it completely mono. And it's just to add like a little bit, like just to control the stereo field, basically. Okay, so there is like one. Okay, so I didn't make like a low-end bus for this project, but that's because I don't want to do any like tweakings to the kick drum and the bass line. It sounds fine to me. So for the drum bus, I'm also gonna add the Soothe 2. And especially in my drums, like with the hi-hats and like the more like transient stuff, there can be a lot of like resonance and they can sound a little bit annoying if you boost all volume and also if you add like compressors and stuff on it. And for drums, I just love to use Soothe on the drums. It just makes them sound a little bit less harsh and more smooth. So yeah, that's the stuff. Then again, this is basically the same as the instrument bus. Just using the solid bus compressor and just putting the threshold down a little bit so the needle is moving. Then I like to add I think I also like the passive EQ for this one. Then I'm gonna do like a high pass cut at 220 Hertz. And I'm gonna boost for high shelf at 12K, so super highs. And then 3000. I like to boost like a little bit too much on these knobs that I turn so I can hear what it's actually adding, and then dialing back the effect. And then I'm adding the tape emulation plugin. But I want to add a little bit of saturation, a little bit more saturation than on the instrument bus, because I want to crush the drums a little bit. Awesome. And then to finish it off, also 9 imager. I'm basically doing the same stuff. So the approach is almost like the same. And also what I look for with my drums is that there is happening something in the stereo field, that it's moving, that everything is not sitting at mono, but there is like some movement. It's just to make the drum sounds a little bit more interesting. Okay, so for the SFX bus, this is basically just to add like a parametric EQ filter, just to make sure that there is any unwanted low end. Pretty cool. So that's basically it for all of these instrument buses. So I think we're actually ready to jump into like just a small mastering session. Nothing crazy. So the first plugin that I add is this tonal balance control. And this is basically to check the frequency curve, to see if there is like too much bass or too much highs, or so it's generally just to have a visualizer that can help you, but also you should also use your ears, of course. So I can just play it. So actually, that area could actually need a little bit of boosting. So I can just look at this fine meter here. So around like 500, 700 Hertz area could actually benefit from a boost. So we can go into the instrument bus, and then I'm actually gonna add my neutron 3. And then we can go here and actually just do a little bit of a boost. Nothing really fancy, I just think like 2 dB of boost. And then we're gonna do it for the drums, we're gonna do it in the passive EQ plugin, just to see if we can do something else. see what it says now. Maybe we can actually also turn up the melody synth a little bit. Let me go into that. See if I can turn it up a little bit. You know, we can actually just go into, let me just see, like, just gonna add like a gain plugin here. Just do a little bit of volume. It's with the I know what happened. Let me just check. I think I switched the... Yeah, I switched the sound. Yes. Sometimes this Korg 1 plugin is... The interface is not so great. Yes. Okay, let's go back. So, fruity balance. Just gonna turn it up a little bit. And then let's play everything. So that improved it actually a lot. Could go and do a little bit boost, more of a boost here. And then as you can see here, we might need to turn down these really super highs just a little bit. And that can be quickly done by just going to, I know like the closed hi-hats are doing a little bit too much. We can just go and do like a... Oh, okay, so this is the automation of the tape stop. It's just really annoying. I'm just gonna turn it off right now. So right now, I think like in terms of the EQ, the curve is pretty cool. I think it sounds really nice. It sounds okay balanced. So we're actually ready to dive into adding a little bit of basically mastering. So what I tend to do is that I tend to turn down all of my channels. So I have like -4 dB of headroom before doing any mastering. So I'm going to turn down the instrument bus, the kick drum, sidechain trigger, the bassline, the drum bus, and the SFX bus. And I'm going to turn this down by maybe like -4 actually. The reason why kick drum, sidechain trigger, and bassline are being turned down as well individually is because they haven't been routed into this like group, which I've done with all the other elements. So now we have a little bit more headroom. We actually need a bit more. So we're going to do the same thing again. Just going to turn it down like this. Yeah, that's much better. So now like mastering for this specific track, I think I'm basically just going to use Ozone 9. And mastering, I tend to get like a really good mix. And then for mastering, if I were to do it myself, I'm just going to add like basically just a maximizer, maybe a little bit of EQing, and that's it. I don't want to dive too much into it because I don't have the required skills to do this really great. I don't want to do too much stuff because I'm afraid that I'm gonna mess up stuff more than it's gonna sound great. Because mastering, let's face it, it can't fix a bad mix. It's really difficult to fix a bad mix in the mastering stage. So I'm always focusing on getting the production right, the mixing right, and then I can just add those last 10%, 5% in mastering. Okay, and then I forgot to show you. So there is like one more plugin that I use, and this is the this AB metric plugin from Plugin Alliance. And what I basically just use it for is just to measure loudness. So I want to have it at around -8 LUFS in loudness. I'm just gonna push this a little bit more. And also doing like this Bandax treble boost, just 1 dB at 10,000 hertz, just to boost the highs a little bit. This just sounds really great in my opinion. And then we can just check the loudness. Okay, so for the sake of it, we could actually also add the Shadow Hills mastering compressor. I just have these settings, and I just want the needle to move just a little bit, not too much, so nothing crazy compression going on, just a little bit. And then I also like to add another limiter next to the Ozone 9 maximizer, because then I can distribute the amount of gain, like boosting the gain, so the limiters doesn't have to work that hard on its own. I can just use 2 limiters and then distribute it. So we also just gonna put a gain in here. Add a little bit of gain in the Shadow Hills compressor. And then in Ozone 9, I'm also going to add an imager just to check the stereo field. To be honest, I think this is it for like the mastering, and I think this is actually pretty solid track. I didn't expect to create this. I just wanted to just play around with stuff and just wanted to record a video and just share the process of creating music in the studio. So I really hope you enjoyed it and learned something from my approach of producing. So let's just play like everything and yeah, enjoy. this is a banger, in my opinion. Okay guys, I hope you enjoyed this really long video. I hope you learned a lot of tricks and tips of me producing on the fly. And if you liked the video, it means so much to me if you smash that like button or even subscribe to the channel. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so you never miss any future videos on the channel. I've also launched a Discord server for producers. It's a place where we can share our track ideas, get feedback, provide feedback. It's generally just a cool place to hang out and talk about music and stuff. And I really want you to get involved if you want to. You can join the Discord via the link in the description down below. If you want to support this channel even further, you can go and browse some of my sample packs and preset packs on my web shop. The link is also in the description down below. So I hope to see you in the next video. Take care. Peace.